Jack of all trades, master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one. So what exactly does that mean? It is a figure of speech in reference to a person who has dabbled in many things rather than gaining expertise by only focusing on one. So much knowledge and wisdom out there, at our fingertips, yet so difficult to grasp. Everything and everyone has a little piece of the truth, and it is up to us to determine what our truth is. In this busy world, creating the time, the space to nourish our bodies, mind, and soul has become a difficult task. So let's take a moment to learn something small, in whatever way the universe decides to reveal it. It could be someone's story, a quote, a spiritual practice, maybe a song or a movie. The opportunities are limitless and all around us if we just take a moment to see. We are all students of life experiences, so let us learn from one another. There is no right or wrong path. There is only your path and your journey. So let's begin our adventure and explore all the world has to offer, and let us become a master of none.
Support Rainbow Soul. Check out the Rainbow Soul merchandise for your favorite new shirt. A variety of colors and styles to suit your taste. Show off your love for Rainbow Soul. Get cool designs with your favorite quotes. Designs come in a variety of colors so that you can express your most authentic self. Support Rainbow Soul in spreading the word that queer, gender variant, intersex, transgender is sacred. Rainbow Soul, putting the soul back into queer. Order your unique Rainbow Soul merchandise at rainbowsoul.show.
Welcome to Rainbow Soul, an explorative discussion about spirituality beyond mainstream religions. Hollis Taylor, author, psychic, astrologer, and alchemical mage, brings their non-binary perspective together with fellow drag king and trans man Lacrosse Ortiz, a Jewish Taino with spiritual background of exploration that has led him to an atheist perspective. Join these guys as they explore deep and difficult topics, all related to spirituality, offering a queer perspective, an exploration of interesting topics, and engaging guests to help explore conversations for the Rainbow Soul.
Hey, friends.
Hey!
Welcome, everybody, to Rainbow Soul. I'm so glad you tuned in this Sunday night. We have a fun show in front of us tonight. I'm Hollis Taylor. I'm your host for Rainbow Soul, and this is Lacrosse Ortiz, and he's our other host. And so, what I want to say is, first of all, I'm Hollis Taylor. I'm the author of Divine Androgyny. You can check out my book. And you can check out my website at divineandrogen.com. Essentially, I'm a mage, I'm a witch, I'm a medium, and I'm an all around unusual freak. But in general, I'm a good person. So I'm glad you're here today. And hey, Lacrosse, tell us who you are.
Yeah, I'm back. It's been, oh my God, it feels like forever since I've been on this show. I'm Lacrosse. I am the host of A Master of None. I'm an atheist, Taino, Jewish, jack of all trades, master of none, avid learner, believing that spirituality is not so much anything about dealing with the divine as it is a journey. So, yeah. So like I said, it feels like forever since I've been here.
Yeah, it has been a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, Lacrosse, because right before you went to do your thing with your anniversary and all of that, being Samhain, and I was thinking about getting married on Samhain, and I know it may not be Samhain to you, but it is to me. And
Right.
so it's I'm kind of like, maybe their ancestors were once married and this is their second life together. I was wondering if that ever occurred to you.
That's, it's funny because like I believe that, you carry in your DNA all these ancestors. So I wouldn't doubt it because I mean of all days, you know,
I
to
mean,
to get married. I mean, I get Halloween and all that, like whatever, and that's fun, but it's such a thin veil at that point
including
and it's so sacred.
including Latin, Latin countries usually celebrate some sort of form at this
Yeah,
time of year,
the Day of the
form
Dead.
of, yeah, some sort of ancestor magic. So I was kind of like, I wonder if, and I was just having that. So I'm just going to say that out loud. And the interesting fact was that right before you left, we found out that in general, Jewish mysticals
Yeah.
don't necessarily encourage talking to your ancestors.
Yes, they don't encourage talking to the dead. There's the phrase in the Torah that says suffer a witch to live or something like that. I don't know. But the whole point is people think it's magic, and it's no, because Judaism is all full of magic. It's not about magic. It's about contacting the dead. And they believe that you're taking them away from their rest and or possibly their purging process. They could be going through some type of what we call Gehenna, which is like a purging, and some people call it hell. We don't necessarily call it hell, but it's that purging. And when you contact them and bring them back, there's a difference if they're hanging around. But if you
Okay.
bring them back to summon them, you're taking them from their rest, or their purging process. So I think that's so we're not supposed to do it. Like I'm not
But
supposed to do it.
you're mixed with Taino,
Right. I'm
and
like
Knox doesn't believe that at all.
where with us the Tainos we're like hitting the floor and we're saying come on wake up, come here, we need you. So it's this it's
So it's interesting that you're at least back for part of it.
right.
And the show that you come back for is Ancestral Magic.
Yes.
So, it's just, it's just an interesting mixture or whatever.
Yeah.
And so speaking of tonight, is that tonight we're going to be talking about ancestral magic. And what does that mean? Well, we'll try to define that in the show tonight. And it was actually pretty hard for me to find somebody that might talk about this. And here I am talking to my friend who happens to be an artist who was on the show before. And I knew that she was like into ancestors and stuff, but she was like, ooh, ancestral magic. Yeah, we could talk about that. So let me just bring out our guest. Her name is Amanda Moore. Welcome back, Amanda.
Hi, Amanda.
How are you?
Um,
Thanks for having
so Amanda is the artist for The Dancing Hippo, which you guys have seen the book. Why don't you tell us about yourself a little, Amanda?
Sure. My name is Amanda Moore, and I'm an artist out of Southern Massachusetts currently. I guess the relevancy for tonight is I also do a little bit of, I've done quite a bit of mediumship since I was young, and definitely worked in around fire with Hollis and held space in various like sacred ways. And one of those ways is to work through ancestor magic and to bridge that between worlds. So this is the first time I'm publicly talking about this. It is a sacred work that is more often than not just word of mouth, and but I'm happy to be here. And
Yeah.
like coming
I think it's important for us to talk about it, and I've been validated even in the last couple of weeks, and now Eric is saying, "Welcome, Eric," and he's saying, "I'm pretty interested in tonight's show." So, and let me also tell you, just last night I was on a phone line that I'm on, and I'm a psychic medium for it, and a person called me, and she really needed help. She needed help in knowing how to contact the dead, how to communicate with them, how to interpret it, how to, and how to protect herself. Like, I wear hats when I don't want to hear from the dead. When I need safe space, I wear a hat. And, there's some pretty simple things that you can do to put up boundaries so that you can work with the dead. And just these basic tips about how you work with the dead, that's what she needed. And it was so, like, it's like one after another, and she's not the first time that someone has called me on that line as a psychic medium and asked me for support. um like, they feel like they're being tapped. So let's talk about that for a minute, a second. Have you ever been tapped, Amanda, by a spirit?
I sure have. Yes. It's yes, I wouldn't say it's necessarily like a physical tapping, but it is, it feels like company, a very strong, like, company presence, where it's like, I need you to say this to so-and-so, or I need, can you help me with this? It depends on which way it's coming from. I worked hospice for 14 years, and I got to do it privately most of that time. So it was really beneficial in that way. And I would say that's more of a thing, like, for sure, where it's just like, hey, I see.
The first time or two that I was tapped was actually in a haunted house, where spirits are kind of lost in a way, or they're lost in what I call a loop, where they're playing out the same thing over and over. And then later, and that was just spirits wanting me to help them. They didn't understand why they were in this loop. And I'm like, well, it probably has something to do with being dead. Um, and sometimes they don't even know they're dead. And then later, I've been tapped in just random areas, and it completely happens really randomly. I won't be thinking about that. I'll be thinking about, like, the Grand Canyon comes to mind. Here I am. I'm just boom, 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 walking along and checking out the scenes at Grand Canyon. I walk out to the edge, and boom, I felt like a spirit, like, came up behind me, and all of a sudden I had this information. And the information was that someone had been spreading someone's ashes here, and she keeps coming back there and sobbing and crying and missing this person. But so she keeps bringing this person's energy up at this spot, which is okay for them. They loved the Grand Canyon, but she needed to realize that when she left, that he was still with her. The problem was, is I didn't know who this woman was coming to the Grand Canyon and sobbing. And I certainly didn't have the time to sit around for the next week and find out. So that kind of thing has happened. Um, and that's what happens when we do things like that. Especially when we don't realize that our ancestors are not limited by space and time. Um, they can be in more than one place at once, and they, and I don't know. It's hard sometimes for some people to comprehend that they're no longer human, so they don't have the same restraints that we did. Um, But sometimes I'm tapped for other things. Like sometimes, like you, Amanda, I have to tell somebody something about their ancestors, or something like that. So being tapped is just, I would say, the sense, having the sense that the spirit is there, and I feel like not enough people are talking about it.
Yeah, I mean it's already for a really really long time, and it's interesting how there is a taboo around it, and in my family household, especially with my children, it's never been a taboo. Like I've always listened to them when they're like, "Hey, this person, your friend has a lot of company in this house," and I'm like, "Oh, let's talk about it."
Right, exactly. And look at this, Eve. Sometimes they have a literal tap, and I have felt it like that too, like sort of like a tapping on your shoulder or putting their hand on your shoulder. Other times it's just been a sense of presence. So see, so it happens to more than just a few people. It happens to a lot of people, and we have a sense that this entity is around us. But there seems to be a lack of culture about what to do about said presence. Um, we all sense it. We all seem to feel it. How about you, Lacrosse? Have you ever felt a presence?
As a child and when I got older, it was more like I would just see in my head what they look like or what a person looked like. For example, I used to be a property manager, and the apartment I moved into, it's just I could just see this little old lady crocheting, and that's what I just saw, and I could describe the clothes she was wearing, what she, her hair and everything, and then I was odd because I'm thinking. So I went to the neighbor next door and I knocked on their door, and I'm like, did somebody pass away, like an older woman? She used to love to crochet. And she's like, oh yeah, that's Ellen. And I'm like, okay, all right. I don't get freaked out over that because I just, once again, I feel like it's just energy, you know. So I'm just like, okay, Ellen just likes to watch the kids and sit in her corner and crochet and do her thing. Then when I moved here, there was another one. It was a little girl. I just took that she maybe had passed away about rheumatic fever. That's just what I got. And I saw her in a little white nightie. And her and Ellen just kind of hang out. And that's it. And I'm just like, and I go about my business. It's like, it's a piece of the furniture. So that's pretty much been my experiences.
Yeah, it sounds like this kind of thing happens a lot, right? And Eric here is saying he had a tap sometimes. It's just an audio whisper in the ear. So it can happen in a lot of different ways. I've also heard of, and this has happened to me, all of a sudden the house smells like somebody's baking cookies, right? And I'm like, I wish I was baking cookies, but I'm not. um, and that's definitely happened too. So I think that if we had a little bit less, so one of the things I've wondered about is why do we have a fear of spirits? Where does that come from? Why do we have that? And it seems to me like we're afraid of the unknown in general. Humans are afraid of the unknown. But I think it may also have a little to do with Hollywood. Just guessing there. Somebody's watched one too many movies.
Yeah, I've had so many people turn around and they're like, I have this spirit in my house and we need to get rid of it. And I'm like, what are you talking about? They were there first. If there is a spirit in your house, and really what you need to do is learn how to coexist with this, unless it's being aggressive. Just coexist. Why don't you try putting some fruits and berries and some candy out and sweet aromas, calm them down, but trying to get them out your house, they're only going to come back, maybe they will come back aggressive now. At this point, you upset them.
It depends usually what's going on, and so I found that in most cases, most spirits don't mean you harm. They may look or appear, or you may think that they mean you harm. You may project that onto them, but they generally don't mean you any harm. And so couple of the things that over time, I also want to talk about the fact that your ancestors do not have to be people that you're blood related to. Not at all. In fact, they could be drag queens, especially for you and I, lacrosse, since we do drag. So we have that resonance about us, and we could draw those kinds of people into us, especially because what do you think happens to, let's just say, drag queen? She's been cross-dressing for since she was 22. She's now 45. She doesn't really have any blood family because most of them disowned her, and then she gets murdered behind the bar. That's a very common story. Now, what do you think happens to that spirit?
Well, I think it's going to attach to, like, deep calls to deep. So it's going to attach to somebody, like you're saying, it doesn't have to be blood related. It's going to attach to somebody who's very in that similar lifestyle, I guess you could say. And, attach.
Hopefully protect them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I personally have been performing as a drag persona and have felt drag queens that I knew and didn't know come into my presence during my performance or while I'm practicing. As if to say they support what I'm doing or and supporting me in some ways, especially if I'm trying to get a particular move down or do a particular thing. I've had spirits enter my body, and in most cases, they've helped me. And in fact, there has been times that I've had to walk out of a bar by myself and I've felt uneasy and then suddenly felt safe. And usually it's in a city. And usually like a place like Harrisburg, where it's a fairly, or Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, places like that. And I have felt an energy come behind me, and I believe it's a drag queen ancestor that is like my guide. And I don't know who she is. She's not, she might be related to my drag family. She might be somebody that Whitley knows. I'm not sure. But the only reason I say that is because she seems to, she was present when I performed, when I performed for the first time at Whitley's show. So, and she tends to like, come up and protect me at certain moments. Like I'll walk out of the bar and initially I'll have lots of anxiety. I'll take a deep breath and be like, please protect me. And I all of a sudden feel an ancestor come down and around me and hold me in a way that's like, you're safe, you're good. You're good. Go do what you got to do. How about you, Amanda? Have you ever done anything like that with ancestors? Have you ever called down? I'm sure you have a different vibration that you call down, like artists or something.
There's been times when I've called on my family, my ancestors, when I've done it when multiple people in my family were really struggling at the same time and leaning on me a great deal. And I would call on my grandmother and just be like, I can't right now. Like, I don't know what they need. Like I need to focus on what's in front of me, just help. And like within a week, everybody was do, like set up, focused in their own thing, getting the help they needed. And it was just very, very quick. And there's other times when, I just don't have the answer. I don't know how to help. I don't know how to support somebody. And I will, depending on what the reason is, I have different ancestors for different reasons, where I'll be like, you're really good at this. Like, can you what would you do? And bam, it just comes. So, and I've lost my passport. And I'm like, Grandma, I need to go on this trip. Like, where is it? And then like walk over to a bookshelf, pull a book off the shelf, open it up, and there's my passport. And it's like, okay, thank you, Grandma. Just little things like that. So
Yeah, that's having different ancestors for different things. Like I definitely have a drag queen that comes when I'm performing, and then I have a witchy spirit that is often with me when I'm in spiritual groups, and I notice that she tries to keep me out when it's unhealthy. She consistently pushes me out, which is an interesting thing when the group itself is unhealthy, because she was well, she wasn't always sane while she was here on earth. And I've tapped into that. I've kind of felt into that, kind of asked about that. Like if she was unhealthy when she was a human, okay? And when she participated in the magical community that we all know as the pagan community, um, she wasn't exactly the healthiest person, okay? And sometimes she did some things that was off. And she says, "Yeah, but now that's my karma. Now I have to make sure you are not abused in any of these places." And that's why I keep doing that. So there's something about their karmic experience sometimes. And sometimes it might just be family, like you said, Amanda, like, your grandmother or something like that. But because I don't really have a close bond with any of my family members, I'm kind of a lost soul in that way. But I tend to mix with other lost souls. Um, I tend to have a lot of them around me. The only blood ancestor that is at my side is my father. Um, Otherwise, my mother and my grandmother, not my mother's still alive, but my grandmother, she comes in, but we don't. It's not that I have anything against her, but she has a different service that she has to do, and I don't really get it. Um, I didn't really know her or have any connection to her, and I have done spells to disconnect from my blood ancestors. How about you, Lacrosse? Do you have ancestors that you call upon and ask for help?
Mostly when we do call, like it's when we're doing ceremony, like when we're doing our tribal ceremonies, we will call on the ancestors, and you can actually feel that heightened energy during ceremony. Whether it's drumming, dancing, calling the directions, it's just so amplified. I myself, I don't, because like I said, I'm in that Jewish Taino, so I don't really call on them. Um, I kind of like speak out and ask for wisdom, or is there something out there that could kind of put me in a direction? I don't know who it is that brings it to me. I mean, I'm assuming it's a form of ancestor, but I don't know. But I don't like directly call out for them because, like I said, I don't want to mess up anybody's slumber. So I'm kind of like, if you're already out there, I could use some help right now. But if you're in slumber, no, just stay there. Just go do your purge or whatever it is you're going through. Get to the next level. But if somebody's out there, yeah, sure, come on, give me some ideas.
Yeah, it must have like mixed, you have a mixed
Yeah.
implications there, almost like, because generally Latin America believes
Oh yeah.
you should talk to your ancestors, honor your
Yes.
ancestors. Yeah.
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 So like I said, it's that double edged. But there's are times when, like when we were talking about Samhain, when the veil is thin, and you have those days to contact them because it's already thin. So you're just as much in their realm as they are in yours. So I think in certain occasions, like the Day of the Dead, at that moment when it's coming, or Samhain, or whatever, I think it's okay to contact. Like I have no problem contacting and saying, hey, grandma, or hey, pops, can you help me out here? Yeah. So.
Yeah, and I guess that would be one way of having ancestral magic. And the other way that comes to mind for me is healing, especially talking about my grandmother. And I believe you and I, Amanda, have been around fire circles that do ancestral healing. And the interesting part about that is that every time I work to heal ancestral lines, my resonance changes, and then Sarah, so do the people around me. It's so impactful and so big, right? It's so and how do I heal it? Well, I think that comes out in a lot of different ways. And for me, I'll share my experiences that so in my bloodline, my mother and my grandmother are this is a trigger warning for sexual abuse. Were severely abused by men in their lives. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about it. And so you have to know that the history of the women in my family has been nothing but abuse. And not only that, but they're all mostly addicts. All of the women in my family are addicts and alcoholics. Like they have like a huge drinking problem. Now when I started to really get in touch with my feminine side, okay, which I did do because I wanted to make sure I was in touch with that before I did any kind of transitioning. Okay. I want to see what that's all about with me. And although I suffered a similar abuse, I don't really act out in the same ways they do. And, but to pull down their pain has been one of the things that's happened to me, to pull down their rage, to pull down their sadness and all of the other crazy emotions that come with living in a traumatic experience that they didn't express because during their time they couldn't. Right? So my grandmother and my aunt, we don't really know why my grandma died, but my aunt died of an overdose. Okay. It's just the way my blood family is. And so I have brought down their pain and processed it for them and mixed it with my own and then processed it because I have tools available that they didn't have. Does that make sense for you, Amanda?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Have you ever done anything like that?
Yeah. I think it kept, it's really interesting. That kept coming up, healing generational trauma. Kept coming up anytime I ever was in massage school, and we got introduced to a lot of energy workers and just that whole realm of doing past life regression. And it was just like, that was a part of the community that we were a part of. And I just started working with an acupuncturist, and things are popping off back here. Sorry, scared me. So I was working with an acupuncturist, and when she was doing, just the energy reading of me, oftentimes when I would get energy reading, it was always like, whoa, like, how do you sleep at night? Like, you are constantly surrounded by people. And I'm like, yeah, like, no, this, like, you need to work on your boundaries. You got to work on your boundaries. So, but this particular acupuncturist was doing like the initial reading, and she's like, I can't even start with you until we address this other issue. And like, it's going to sound personal, it's going to be intense, but I need to address your generational trauma first. And it stops with you, and that's a really hard cross to bear, basically. And I feel like a lot of that build up in your life, and like you're experiencing like nerve issues and just physical pain, because you do carry energetically, you can carry that stuff in your body. And in order for her to release that, she had to put the needles in the beds of every single fingernail and toenail until it bled. And she just did this whole thing to like release it. And it was really intense. And I was like, are you sure this is what you're supposed to do? She's like, oh yes, my teacher's going to kill me if he knows I've done this. But it's like only for like real serious cases. And, but after that, it was insane, the things that would come up in my life where I was not only asked to address those things like in my own life, but to also help others in facing those and how to transmute. Because you talk about bringing the pain down. And for me, it's more of as if like I'm the filter and I see it. I can see what they went through, the women in my family. And it's only the women in my family on both my mom and my father's side, but I know more about on my mother's side from Italy, and being able to transmute that and turn it into something, you know, something else here. And that's really important work for a lot of, it's a really important work for growth, for, you know, it's intense work. And in a lot of indigenous cultures, that's something that's what you do. That's the coming of age things that you do. And in our culture, you know, in America, there is no tradition where we do that. There's no tradition where we're taught that. There's no language growing up that the common, you know, young adolescent is like even told, so that they have some type of awareness of, you know, what those feelings are, or what, you know, how to transmute or bring it down and change it. And I think that's a lot of the issue with the young people and narcotic abuse and things like that, because, sorry, I could keep going, but I think it has a lot to do with that, because there is no, it's hard to explain. If that was more regularly accepted, I feel like heading into adulthood, there would be an easier direction, and there would be an easier, a more mindful way of stepping forward in your place in the world as a human doing. Yeah, that's what I think about ancestral work that way.
I actually I think it's beautifully said. Well said, Amanda. I completely agree with you. It seems to be some sort of ancestral trauma that we don't process, and then people seem to get hung up on things and then repeat it. And I bet you lacrosse, you probably have this because of your culture being stolen and whatnot.
Absolutely. This is where I go back into the blood. In your blood, I believe you carry not just your ancestors, but you carry the trauma in your blood. You know, like my ancestors, when they got conquered, was 500 years ago. I have 500 years of trauma behind me. And that's not including like even before that, and so many different lines coming, like whether it's the Jewish and the Inquisition, or the Taino and the conquest, it's carrying all this. And what we have learned is to, like, that's the point of ceremony, is to help heal not just ourselves, but to heal the ancestors, and to be able to show them, you know, breaking free from the colonized mentality, trying to go back to a more, I'm not going to be able to go back to living with just a loincloth 500 years ago. That's obviously, you know, but being able to carry the teachings and give it to my children. And in other words, like you're saying, transmute, but it's like us, we're reclaiming and then filtering the pain, like we're saying, and then saying, okay, as much as, because I know a lot of indigenous people who are still very angry. Here we are 500 years later, and they're still very angry. And of course, every right, but it's not benefiting. The anger isn't benefiting. So what's happening is that it's continuing trauma. When I look at my parents and my grandparents and how they carry that, the anger, the resentment, the bitterness, you know, at what point in time I said, I got to be the one to not carry that and be the one to learn from it and say, okay, this is colonized. This is not. This is the direction I have to go, and start bringing honor back to my people by living a lifestyle that is more, I guess, cohesive with them. You know, I try to live as, you know, we have our two spirits. We have our people who walk in between the two worlds. And I try and carry that and not just keep myself as, oh, I'm just a man and that's it. No, I'm a man, but I'm this. How do I honor it in every day? So that's pretty much what I try to do.
Yeah, I feel like there's definitely everybody's having their own experience. Like everybody's having a different experience with their ancestors depending on what ancestor they're dealing with, right? Like even for me, when I deal with more lost souls, like the ancestors, like drag queens and homeless people, I tend to have their spirits, cowboys, roamers, people that were unattached to their family. I tend to have their energy around me, and that's okay. It's perfectly fine for me. But I find that the trauma that they're trying to heal is the same trauma I'm trying to heal. So they're actually trying to help me heal. And they're trying to help me heal from feeling like an outcast in culture. So they're trying to help me heal that as a human now, right? And so beyond my blood relation, which I've done a lot of healing with, I'm also working with ancestors that are helping me be me, be authentically me, and be in the world, which is a hard combination to do. And most of us trans people and queers struggle with this. And part of me thinks that maybe less trans people would struggle as much. Maybe it could help trans people if they were to tap into that energy, if they were to tap in and recognize it as an option, and then to say, well, if I honor my ancestors as, oh, I do know about this drag queen that died 3 years ago, or I sense a drag queen around me, or I sense a homeless person, or whatever it is, or another trans person. There's plenty of trans people that have gone in the world that have died because of who they were. And I think that's like the concept that I'm also reaching out for people to also see and feel, because those energies, now that they've passed, now karmically, they want to come back and help you heal that. They want to help you. So if you're one of those people that's an outcast, I see you, Vasile. Vasile always feels judged, or has felt judged here, and I've addressed it in the past. I'm going to address it again. No one's judging you as far as I know, Vasile. I just haven't had the appropriate moment to recognize that you're here. I see you and I hear you. And I don't have any problem with sexual healers, and I don't think anyone else in the place does. And so if you reach out to other ancestors around you, because sexuality is a topic that makes a lot of people uncomfortable, you can sometimes feel like you're being judged and you're not. And that's just, it's called a projection. And we do that because we're suffering from trauma, because you have been judged in the past. No doubt you have. I know I'm a sex positive person. I've been judged for it, right, Amanda? I mean, I'm pretty sure you too, Amanda. You're a sex positive person too.
Much so.
You get, yeah, it just happens. You get judged outside of the world, and then you come into a different place, and you think you're being judged again.
Healing, and I'd like to add to this, so the whole world of sexual trauma and sexual healing, like it is so important, as well as the ancestral healing. I mean, it's so important, and it takes a very strong, committed, grounded person to be able to offer that for others and for themselves, because so many of us for centuries, that is a thread almost all of us, pretty much all of us, carry. So it is relevant. I do see you out there doing your work, Bastille, and thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, it's all good. I just have to hit unmute sometimes. Anyway, and I also want to honor what Eve is saying. Realigning those chakras and clearing the energies can clear a lot of trauma hanging on to one. That's right, Eve. I find that going through my chakras, chanting my chakras, and asking for my ancestors to heal me all at the same time kind of brings me into a better space. It helps me feel better. So we're about to take a break. We're going to take a break, and it looks like we have a dream for you to interpret, Lacrosse. So I'm excited to see you take a look at this dream in the chat. And while you take a look at that dream, we're going to take a little break, and we'll be right back.
Divine Androgen, a sacred path for gender variant people. A book dedicated to every drag performer, transgender person, and other gender variant people that have passed to the other side, that have suffered the wrath of our binary world. Thank you for living your truth and treading us a path. We are sorry that in many cases that cost you your life. Now, we ask for your assistance in helping humans evolve so that we may all live in peace and equality. We honor your life by walking our own personal path of authenticity. In honor of Trans Awareness Week and Transgender Day of Remembrance, I, Hollis Taylor, put my book, Divine Androgyny, on sale. That's right, you can check it out. It's on sale for the week of November 13th through the 20th on Amazon. You can get it for half the price. You can get it in print. You can order it on ebook. Get this amazing book all about living as a non-binary person, a gender variant person in a binary world. How to navigate it, how to harvest your true self when you're surrounded by binary. It's a guidebook for people searching for their true selves. The book is intended for people that are gender variant and can be helpful for people searching for a more authentic self or clearing trauma. This book is about treading your own path. It includes my story in the beginning, all about how I figured out how I express gender and now how it comes out for me, how I discovered it, and how I dealt in the world as a response to that. And it also details out the ways that I unfolded myself in a way that helped me live in a binary world, even though I was non-binary. There are steps in here to help you define your own path. Hollis uses the word divine androgen. It's like a label to define someone that defines their own authentic path, regardless of their gender expression, in a way to say that it is sacred to be non-binary, to be transgender, to be queer. It is sacred. Not religious. No. We're talking about more of a spiritual, conscious awareness of ourselves and our path on authenticity. This book is about defining your path of authenticity, as authentic and unique as that is for you. Get your book on sale at Amazon from November 13th to November 20th. You can also order the book at divineandrogen.com. There's only 5 more prints until the second edition is released in 2022. Support Rainbow Soul. Check out the Rainbow Soul merchandise for your favorite new shirt. A variety of colors and styles to suit your taste. Show off your love for Rainbow Soul. Get cool designs with your favorite quotes. Designs come in a variety of colors so that you can express your most authentic self. Support Rainbow Soul in spreading the word that queer, gender variant, intersex, transgender is sacred. Rainbow Soul, putting the soul back into queer. Order your unique Rainbow Soul merchandise at rainbowsoul.show.
Jack of all trades, master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one. So what exactly does that mean? It is a figure of speech in reference to a person who has dabbled in many things rather than gaining expertise by only focusing on one. So much knowledge and wisdom out there, at our fingertips, yet so difficult to grasp. Everything and everyone has a little piece of the truth, and it is up to us to determine what our truth is. In this busy world, creating the time, the space to nourish our bodies, mind, and soul has become a difficult task. So let's take a moment to learn something small, in whatever way the universe decides to reveal it. It could be someone's story, a quote, a spiritual practice, maybe a song or a movie. The opportunities are limitless and all around us if we just take a moment to see. We are all students of life experiences, so let us learn from one another. There is no right or wrong path. There is only your path and your journey. So let's begin our adventure and explore all the world has to offer, and let us become a master of none.
Welcome back. Welcome back. So we got a dream.
Yep.
Eve was awesome enough to share their dream. I had a dream last night, and one of the weird parts was that I was appointed president of something, and I was in an attic room that was supposed to be an ex's bedroom, but there were some sort of things that had been left there, but I was going to need to distribute them currently to people I was supposed to help. There was a strange handlebar I was using for flying since I could not take the stairs. So you were flying up the stairs? Then somebody was trying to get a cop to ticket or tow our van, even though they knew it was ours. Ah, jeez. Okay, go ahead, Lacrosse.
Okay. I always like to look at certain words that people use when they're saying their dreams. I find it. Oh, and cop tow, even a van, though. I knew it was ours and we were about to leave. Like just trying to cause us difficulty. Okay. They put the rest of the dream there.
Oh, okay. Rest. Yeah. They said rest. Then somebody was trying to get a cop to ticket or tow our van, even though they knew it was ours and we were about to leave. Like just trying to cause us difficulty. Okay.
To some people, terminology is tedious. To me, it means everything. I find it interesting that the word appointed. Now, I actually, on the break, was looking up the word appointed, and the word appointed means to decide beforehand or designate. So you were appointed president, which is a leadership role. It was already decided beforehand that you were going to take this leadership role. You were assigned. Another thing I found interesting is that you were in an attic. and an attic is like the top of a house. There's only one more step past the attic to get outside, to actually elevate above. And I took that, taking this leadership role that you have been assigned to the attic, to the higher level. Also, it was an ex's bedroom. So this is, an ex is somebody from the past, or it's the past bringing, there are tools from the past. Like there were items there left for you to use to help. So you got to take these tools from the past so that you can follow through on that leadership role that you have been assigned, which once again, beforehand, it was designated to you from way before. I found it interesting that you were flying. You weren't looking for a wheelchair. You weren't looking for anything. You were flying. You were in flight, which to be flight, that's automatically meaning a higher level that you are achieving. So, but you're also realizing that there are going to be obstacles, people who are trying to get authority. Now, I'm not talking about the police, literally any type of authority, because police represent some type of authority. But somebody is trying to use authority to stop you from doing what you're technically destined to do. So I think it's you coming to terms with your calling, because you know that you've been assigned previously to be in this leadership role, and you are to help other people. And that's basically you coming to terms with what your calling is. But you know the obstacles. That's pretty much what I'm getting. So.
Okay, that sounds good. My ex used to have, they said my ex used to have an attic bedroom, and this was supposed to be that, but did not look as I recall it. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I got. I mean,
I wonder what the only thing, my biggest question is, what does your ex represent? What does that represent to you? You know, like I have an ex that represents, like a past life, and then I have a ex that represents more of like manipulation. So I want to ask you what your ex represents. So just just tap into that. Always ask yourself what your ex, or especially when I've read about dreaming about your exes, and when I read about that, that's like the number one point that a lot of people try to make, is that what does that ex represent to you? Whatever they might represent. So anyway, we're going to get back to our topic and finish up on ancestral magic. I want to bring back Amanda. Amanda, welcome back to the show. Welcome back. I'm so glad you're here. I know you have a little bit of a cold or something, and thanks for hanging in there. We appreciate you. Hopefully it can be a great distraction. We lost you a little bit. Okay. Well, what I wanted to say was that the other topic that I thought we would talk about, ancestral magic, is kind of like, so how do you do it? Like, is there some ways, some tips that you could give people? Some people don't really feel any connection to their ancestors at all. And what do I say to those people? So does anybody have any suggestions?
I know for myself, literally learning my history, not just my actual family history, but my history of my people, was very key for healing and for bringing honor to them. And literally just meditating on it, like focusing on the lifestyle that they lived, the simplicity of it, the beauty of it. And like for me, that is such a key thing. Like I'm a Heinz 57. I can kind of pick anything to go and learn about, but there's something about my indigenous background that it keeps me grounded to the earth, spiritually, to everything around me. And sometimes I got to sit back and okay, what was it like back then for them? And how can I apply that today? And how can I bring honor to it? Like that's my way of doing it.
Okay. Great. That's fantastic. I like that. How about you, Amanda?
I would say, I wasn't connected to my history initially when I first started. Um, and it wasn't until it wasn't until my grandmother would slowly start revealing what my great aunts and my great great aunts would do in Italy, laying of hands. People would come to their, they were from Calabria, which is a very isolated town in Italy. So there was a lot of women that made herbal medicines and tinctures and things like that. And they did things like laying of hands, and my aunts would do these things. And when they came to the States, it wasn't something that was very common here. So they just turned into like grumpy old ladies that just talked, just grumpy old ladies. And it wasn't until I really started connecting and asking stories. I think that for somebody who doesn't feel connected, your elders who are still alive, and that's one thing I've really learned from hospice, they are a treasure trove of information that most of them want to share. They just most often than not don't think anybody cares. Because a lot of elderly people in the family, they feel like once they get a certain age, they're invisible. And I learned so much by spending time with my great great grandmother. And I didn't like playing cards, but it was a good time for me to ask her questions. I wasn't really good at Yahtzee, but I got my history, and she never spoke about that part of it. But the other stories, and even asking my mother, and just like really just ask, and you'd be surprised the information that comes forward. And I always feel like information comes, nothing that you hear or receive is by accident. And if you're meant to dive down that rabbit hole, the pieces will come, but you have to ask. And I think that's really important. Just see what comes up.
For sure. I've definitely worked. I've definitely worked in hospice and with people dying, and that's also my experience. And I also appreciate the history too, Lacrosse. I have found that learning just like LGBTQIA history, for instance, helps me go, holy shit, man! What was it like to be gay in 1920? Right? So I totally get that. And I think for me though, like some of the things that I've done is I've built an ancestors altar. So I actually have like a small shelf that has pictures of my ancestors on it and items. I have like I actually kept my dad's wallet, and it has stuff in it that was his. And I also have a small box with items in it that are from people. And I have pictures of people that have passed, including drag queens, on my altar as well. I also want to say that if you don't necessarily know anyone, like some people don't know anyone that's really passed, you can generally put out a plate of food, especially this time of year, to all of your ancestors, or to any ancestors that you don't know, and you can ask them to make themselves a presence in your life. If you're afraid, I want to give you a tool. One tool that you can use is to get a hat. It could be any kind of hat you want it to be. It could be a winter hat, could be a baseball cap, could be a fancy hat, whatever kind of hat you like, whatever fits your style. And my suggestion is that you take this hat and first you clean it with some Palo Santo. Palo Santo is really powerful in clearing energies and energetic imprints, I would suggest that you get Palo Santo from a sustainable source, which is possible. And so then you get your Palo Santo, you clean it up, and then you hold this hat in your hands. And I want you to visualize it as your way of communicating with the spirits. Okay. It's your way of saying, I'm open to being tapped and I'm not open to being tapped. So when I'm wearing this hat, I need you to leave me alone. When I take this off, I'm open to hearing you or feeling you. And that's really a powerful tool for you. So if you feel like you're afraid that spirits are going to jump you or be tapping you or whatever the fear is, use this hat. And I assure you that if you use it in this way all the time, every time, and you just, every time you go to put it on, you just quickly take a minute to visualize, this is my hat. When I'm wearing it, I am not open to being tapped right now. And so that's just a tool. And if you take an ancestor's altar, set out a couple of candles, maybe put a small plate of food, and incense. You can burn incense, especially if it's incense that your ancestors might have liked. Especially like if you have a lot of Europeans that first came here, like the first settlers, if you happen to be white, you want to burn things like frankincense and things like that. Okay. If you're more like Taino or you're Puerto Rican or something like that, then you want to go to your culture and find out what they liked and then burn that. So these are some tools that you can use. Do you have any tools, Lacrosse?
Well, for the Puerto Ricans, I'll just tell you, Palo Santo and Tobanuco are things that we use, and also a lot of fruit, like indigenous fruit to the Caribbean for them. Basically, if you're indigenous, because I keep saying it, everybody's indigenous from somewhere. So you have to go back to that point of what did they use then, if they were from, I don't know, from Asia, they would have used something different. If they were European, they would have used something different. You don't actually have to go through your bloodline to go to the place where you came from. I mean, to get that information. In other words, I don't have to go to my dad and figure that out. I mean, I'm like, okay, I'm Hispanic, I'm Latino, I'm this. I go there. That's what I basically used in that. So...
Fantastic. How about you, Amanda? Do you have any tools or tips to help people feel safer or?
The kind of tools that I like to use is like when I'm doing any type of ancestor work, when I'm going into, if I'm doing medium work for someone else, I have a certain scarf that I wear. And it's just, when I have that on, that's when I do my most sacred work. It's filled with, it's a lot of veils, it feels magical to me. And I wear that when I do that kind of work. I also wear that over my head if I've done a lot of work and I feel vulnerable and raw and I don't want anything coming in afterwards, or I don't want to receive anything. It's like, I don't want to run into anybody I know out in public. It's just like my invisibility veil. And I also have pieces of jewelry that kind of work in the same way. So when I have this necklace on, I'm invisible. I'm energetically, no vampires, like energetic vampires. Nobody can see me, not in the world, not in the other ones. And that's just a nice, like, quiet, small way to, you can really empower any object or anything with an intention in that way. And if you're scared, you know what? Another thing I'd like to add is there's so many different ways of receiving contact or receiving a connection. And you can ask, like, don't touch me when I'm in bed. Like, I don't want to be touched. Like, that's my big thing. Don't touch me. Like, if you really need to talk, come through a dream. Like, you can come through when I'm washing dishes, like, whatever. But, be specific. And that is also really helpful. Don't come to me
right
night, like things.
I have another thing is I always try to keep a note is they were people. They were people. And I had an incident where my ex, they would torment my ex. And I was like, and I was the middle of the night, I was woken up, and I just literally did like a mom move. And I was just like, look, if you don't go and stop playing around right now, don't make me get up out of this bed. And my ex said, she just ran downstairs into my daughter's room. And I was just like, but the whole point is remember, they were people. So sometimes you gotta, like if you don't want, like if somebody really came and touched you and you don't want them touching you, hey, no, cut it out, and it's setting up that boundary and treat them no different than if they were actually physically there.
Yeah. When growing, grandmother, husband, one of her husbands passed away. And after that, her house became incredibly active. Just while you were sitting there, like videos would come out of the VHS, things would fall off the wall. And I wish I could say what she would say out loud, but I don't think so. Like, you get the hell, like she was just very like, I don't think so. Very out loud about it. I just remember that constantly she was yelling at David.
Yeah, there's actually, for your information, drums that are made with natural skins. In general, if you use them, the rhythm of them, the sound of them will help clear out any energy in your house. If you have a spirit in your house that is haunting your house or whatever, and you feel like you need it exorcised, using your voice along with a drum is usually enough. Also, you might want to tell that spirit that they're dead, because sometimes they just don't know that they're dead. I know that seems weird, but sometimes it happens really fast for them, and they can get caught in a little bit of a loop, it seems. And there's a lot of mediums that agree that this just kind of happens for some reason sometimes. It's usually because the person was caught off guard. And they boom, and they died suddenly or quickly. So I find that if that is going on for you, use some Palo Santo or use something that they recognize. So if you're up in the Northeast, up in, like, if you were in Lancaster, for instance, where you are, La Crosse, if you didn't know for sure it was Taino, and you think it's a local spirit, I would tell you to use clove, because the Amish people didn't like clove, and clove meant that as spirits had to leave. That's what the Amish believe. So so that's what you want to do. You want to spread a smell around, and you want to speak out loud like you talked about across, become the mama.
Yeah.
And use a little bit of a drum with a natural skin on it, and yeah, you'll clear that area.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I had seen a lot of people that they do these things and they started using all these different herbs to try and get rid of somebody. And then they came up to me and they're like, look, I need your help. And I'm like, well, what are you doing? And they told me what they were using. And I'm like, you're confusing them. You're calling them to you, and then you're trying to exorcise them. And then you're doing, like, that's a big thing though. Be careful what you do use, because you might agitate that energy. And because, okay, do you want me here? Don't you want me here? What's going on? And they were actually combining one that would call them and one that would tell them to go away. And I said, who told you to do this? Oh, my mom. Well, first off, stop listening to your mom. Okay. Look at where you're at, and I like that you mentioned that, because sometimes it is, I can't always use Palo Santo or sage, because that might not be what's gonna, sometimes I got to use cinnamon. Who'd have thunk?
It just depends. I think it depends on the spirit, and that's where mediums come in. As a psychic medium, then we can tap into them, and we can be like, oh, this person is of this descent. So you might want to use, this person is indigenous. You might want to be using sage right now. So, Eve is saying that they know people who complain about being haunted who have smudged with rosemary. Actually, Eve, rosemary is a spirit, an herb used as like a smudge, if you want to call it smudging, where they spread that smoke around. Rosemary is known for clearing spirits, kind of like Palo Santo, but it's rosemary and it's an evergreen, so it makes sense. Because that's why they use pine trees, by the way.
And I use in the Italian culture, rosemary's one. Bay leaves is really popular to use, and also grape olive leaves. When dried olive leaves are really nice to burn.
So there we go. So there's a lot of different options, and it might depend on what spirit you're working with, and that's why there's people like me and and other mediums in the world. That's why we exist. That's why we offer our services to the world, so that you can come and be like, "Oh my God, I don't know what to do," and we'll try to help you. That's why we exist. That's why we do what we do. That's why I was called to my path. And sometimes spirit will literally be like, put yourself available on that line, and boom, as soon as I do, within minutes somebody calls me, and I'm helping them just figure out what they need to do. Oh, okay. Eve is saying that rosemary is also used for summoning, and it seems well they were choosing were summoners to banish. Okay. I didn't know that rosemary was also used for summoning. I never heard of that way, but I've heard it for clearing spirits, for letting spirits know that they can move on. I haven't used it a whole lot. Mostly I've used clove just because of the areas I've been in. Clove, sage, and Palo Santo. So, and I think that when we are dealing with ancestral magic, or when we're trying to tap into them, there's a lot of different ways to reach out to your ancestors, and we've kind of gone through some of them. But one of the ways that I want to talk about is through meditation. And the reason I'm saying meditation is because for me, most of the time, I'm not clearing spirits. I'm not having problems with spirits. Most of the time, I'm wanting to do exactly what Bright Hawk's talking about here, saying thanks, asking for help. I'll always say for the greatest good of all can be helpful. Yeah, using language like that for the greatest good of all, help me, ancestor, help me figure out what I'm supposed to do in this situation for the greatest good of all. That's all. That's all she's saying. And by saying that, you let the ancestors know what your intention is, and you kind of bring that kind of energy towards you. And so I meditate. I get myself in a meditative state, and I try to go through all of my chakras. And then when I'm in the top chakra, which is white, I imagine myself in the clouds, which can be very dreamy, right? And then in the clouds, there's a door, and you can open this door, and inside of it, only I can open the door. By the way, it's special lock, and only I can open the door. And so I open the door, and inside that room is my personal hosting room. It is a room that I can host as many spirits as I want. I decorate it how I want it. I set it up the way I want. There's a huge TV in there, which is actually a window, but it turns into a TV when I'm communicating with the spirits. And then inside that room is also a door to the other side. And at any time I can go over and open this said door, and my guides are always protecting that door to the other side. So they kind of stand in protection. My father and my witchy mom that passed away, so Karen and my dad, are boom right at the door. They're the first spirits that will come forth. and then they will slowly bring in other spirits that need to communicate with me, especially when I'm doing work for other people. And then those spirits can show me images on the TV so that I can communicate them to other people. So if you're a person that's looking to connect with your spirits, you may want to try that meditation. So like I said, you want to go through all your chakras and then go into your room. You want to decorate this room, create this room to be however you want it. Just make sure there's a door to the other side and it's always protected by your ancestors. When you leave, you lock the door, and I always come out in a spiral rainbow slide to help me come back, because I feel like childlike energy helps you ground. So that's just my way. Does anyone else use meditation, anything like that, to communicate with your elders, with your ancestors?
Oh, I was waiting for you to go ahead.
It really depends on if I'm being asked to contact someone who has passed already that I don't know. I've done a lot of work with people who are in a comatose state, and I'm working with family members that have reached out and like, what do I do? Are they gonna wake up? Where are they at? That's more of and a lot of times I don't know who the person is. I've never met either of these people. That's more of like a going outward and seeing if just saying like, hey, like, do you want to communicate? Like, are you out there? Are you? And then they'll come in to my focus. So, and sometimes it's like I'm dropping into somebody. Always ask permission first, but sometimes I'm just dropping in. It's more immediate for me. I don't go into like a full meditation. I just like surround myself with white light, like, okay, and now I'm here. And it's usually really fast and rapid. And it's just like I have a pen and paper, and I'm just everything that's coming through, I write down. And yeah, it's kind of instant. It depends. If it's an animal, I don't have time to meditate. If it's someone's dog or cat that passed, like they're right there. Bam, this is my name. I'm this breed. This is how I died. Like, I'm okay. Like it's very quick. So it's kind of like that. It'd be nice to have a room.
I've learned to get into my room very quickly. So in 1 or 2 breaths, I can be there. So Lacrosse, how about you? Do you do anything like that?
I don't really, they just find like the ones that I ended up contacting, they just found me. I'm just like, this is what I see. This is and that's it. I think like at this point I have closed myself off so much to it only because it's your journey. And in my journey, I'm like, no, I don't want to deal with this. And I haven't dealt with it for years. I'm not going to say I'm never going to deal with it again. But yeah, no, it just pops in my lap and I'm just like, oh, okay. I feel this, that, here and there. And they're like, oh crap. And I'm like, oh crap. No, I don't want to do this. Bye. I don't know what they said. I didn't stick around, and it's not that I fear it. It's just that I know that I myself, I try to be very conscious of where I am at that moment. And if I'm not in a good space, I don't know, because I don't want to mess up something in translation. So I always try and no. But the one thing we do is, like you said about drumming, sometimes to make them go away. And with us, we drum to bring them. So that is something that I noticed that like in our tribe, we drum. It's like we're calling them, hey, you here? We're here. Up there with the stomping on the floor, the hitting the floor. We literally, that's how we call them in. So. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if that's your intention, I think it's all about intention.
Right.
So, anyway, does anyone else have anything else you want to say about Ancestor Magick that you think should be said?
don't be don't be afraid of it. You never know, like, what will come through. Definitely be ready for it, because whatever you ask for, make sure you're in a good place, and a good strong place, not a vulnerable place prior. um, but even sometimes just writing a letter and leaving it out by your bedstand at night, and just see what comes.
Yeah, I'm gonna second that. That be open, because there's a lot of ancestors that I believe all of us have at least one or two guides, if not more, around us at all times that is constantly trying to say, yeah, every time you see this animal, or every time you are reminded of me, it's because I'm with you. It's because I'm here with you. I want you to feel held. I want you to feel like you have something in the world with you, an energy on the other side. And so, in almost like a god, I guess. But I don't really like superiority of them. I just think that they're different. Spirits are different. They're just coming from a different place. So, that would be the last thing I want to add before I do this tarot reading. Um, is to be open, that we all have ancestors trying to guide us. And if you're open to the message, you might just be blessed. Could happen. It's happened to me. Okay, friends. Like Braid Hawk said, be willing to be delightfully surprised.
Took the word. I was just thinking that.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So I'm going to do a quick tarot reading to wrap up our show tonight. Love is love. This is a collaborative deck, and that's my favorite thing about it. And I'm going to pull 3 cards to see exactly what divine has for what messages the divine has for us tonight. This first one is about the knight. It's the Knight of Swords, and it really represents the warriors that have gone before, especially because of it landed in the past position. What in the past do we need to recognize now? And that's what this is. This card is to help us remember the warriors that have gone before us. Remember who they are. They need to be remembered just like you want to be remembered someday. It's no different. Remember those ones that have come before us, because they've tread a path for us, all of us, whether you're a medium, whether you're a witch, whether you're an artist, whether you're a drag king or queer, it doesn't matter. There have been many warriors that have come before us, right? And this card is about the now, right? And this is about the twin, about how you come together with others. And also it is about healing, and it's about what you say in the world and the energy that you send out in the world, especially who you're paired with. So this is also telling you to be aware of who you're paired with. Why? Because those ancestors affect you. And right now, this I'm looking at this deck going, wow, you're talking to me, aren't you? Okay. But anyway, this is about the people that you're paired with and the energies and the ancestors that have to do with around them. Okay. That's what all this beautiful artwork around these two are, right? With the beautiful flames at the top there. See at the top of their head. And that's because they're kind of manifesting in a way, right? And that's what this is all about. What are you manifesting, and with whom, and what is the energy around it? And this is just pointing that out to you. And this final card is all about being alone. This is about being independent and being one's own person, and staying being your own person and allowing that to be your power. That just because you are paired with someone doesn't mean that you can't be independent or strong or be your own person. You don't always have to be with that person, or you can be different than that person, and it's okay. So that's what this is all about, reminding you about the people that have come before us, that have tread paths, that have worked hard to get us where we are today, like the fact that Amanda's allowed to create art, or that Lacrosse and I are allowed to do drag, or be queer, or have this show, for frank's sakes, or be able to talk about mediumship, right? Okay. it was a couple hundred years ago or something, we would have been all drug off to jail, right? For talking about mediumship. So that's what this is all about. This is to remind us, just like Lacrosse was saying, look in your history books at what you can learn from your ancestors and the now of what spirits are you connecting with, who are you connecting with, and what are you manifesting. Pay attention to that. It's important. And as you go forward, don't forget that you are your own independent person and you are capable of creating your own reality. So tonight, I want to say thank you. Thank you, Amanda, for being willing to talk about this very sensitive topic. I feel like it's such a, and even a kind of a difficult topic to talk about, but interesting all the same. So I'm glad that you could be here tonight. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me. It's good to see you.
And thank you, Lacrosse. Thank you for being here to talk about this and do this with me, and being willing to do Rainbow Soul. And I want to reach out to all of you guys out there watching, everybody that's watching the show, whether you're watching it live or watching it recorded later. I just want to say, first of all, thank you. Thank you for watching the show. And number two, I want to also say that I totally appreciate you in a deep, profound way. And in such a deep way that I want you to know that we have started our website. And it's called rainbowsoul.show. If you go there, you'll be able to see and listen to old episodes. You'll be able to order merchandise if you're interested. It supports the show. We have a website because we're hoping that you'll share it. Please share. Please subscribe. Please like, love, and support. And thank you for commenting. We appreciate your participation. Thank you for supporting Rainbow Soul. And thank you for being here tonight. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
See you.
Thank you for watching Rainbow Soul, a queer perspective on spirituality beyond religion. We appreciate you sharing the show on your timeline. Follow us on social media of your choice and join our Facebook group, Rainbow Soul. We want to hear from you. Share your topic ideas for Hollis and Lacrosse. Explore upcoming shows and interesting guests. The Rainbow Soul Facebook group, where we build community of questioning seekers. Rainbow Soul, where spirituality is our medicine.
Support Rainbow Soul. Check out the Rainbow Soul merchandise for your favorite new shirt. A variety of colors and styles to suit your taste. Show off your love for Rainbow Soul. Get cool designs with your favorite quotes. Designs come in a variety of colors so that you can express your most authentic self. Support Rainbow Soul in spreading the word that queer, gender variant, intersex, transgender is sacred. Rainbow Soul, putting the soul back into queer. Order your unique Rainbow Soul merchandise at rainbowsoul.show.